50% of the total revenue from exports. And now I want to understand that it's been that there are lots of company which has gone for acquisition model, but you continue to be in JV model. Do you think that at any point of time Anand Group is missing something for not going into inorganic expansion?
Uh, well, I think inorganic is certainly on our horizon. It is not that we don't really consider inorganic expansion. Certainly, I think we are conscious of that. It is only that last 3 years, because of the current state of the industry, we thought we must concentrate much more on our existing businesses. We do believe even in the existing businesses, there is not a value still to be explored. I don't think the kind of margins we make in this business right now, in our existing businesses, they are, they are ideal margins which our stakeholders would be delighted with. We've got still some way to cover. We still have one or two businesses, where we have not yet come out of the woods. Takata, our business on safety products being one here, where we still have to achieve the scale and turnover to be able to start making profits. Also, there are challenges in some of the other businesses where we need to improve our returns. So I think this is a major challenge which we had taken in the last 3 years, that we must continue to improve our margins while the volumes are still not coming. So that is why we have not looked at, in the last 3 years, actively any inorganic growth. You're talking about acquisitions, so it is not that we have never looked at acquisitions. You talked about Motherson Sumi, they had a very good opportunity where their overseas partner in one of the product lines, was not doing well, and that is where number of OEMs requested them to really, to invited them to even take over that company, and then they made a very good success of it. But in our case also, we have in the past looked at an acquisition. Obviously, we did not advertise it, and this was also an acquisition of one of our partners, But of course, we wanted to be careful about what money we are spending on that particular acquisition. We are very conscious of the fact that we should not really end up distressing our existing operation, existing group by spending money over the top for that acquisition. So we made a bid. It was not successful. And let me tell you, whosoever won that bid was a private equity player, and they sold it after 2-3 years, and that business is still not doing well. So in hindsight, I think maybe, we were right in terms of being a little conservative about it and not really going overboard and paying too much money for that acquisition. So acquisition at our, I would say, terms, at terms where we could justify an acquisition, and it's something which is accretive to our existing operations, not something which really depletes our existing operations. But again, coming back to the other question, yes, this acquisitions we could do in businesses which are freestanding, where we don't have a strong overseas partner, but our business model has been partnering, as you know, right from 1961, and we have got 14 joint ventures out of 19 companies. So in most of the businesses where we have joint ventures, you see, it is not possible to do acquisitions overseas because we come in direct conflict. In many cases, it's not even possible because we are not even allowed to do that and compete with our partners. But as I have said many times in the past that we are in this case in a very good situation where we end up creating a lot of trust with our partners in the relationships. So we become partners of choice if somebody is looking for partnering in India, and that is how this liquid moly joint venture which I was talking about. It's actually, it's not a joint venture in the sense that there is a business which we are setting up where both are holding equity, but it is that we are becoming a channel partner and a distributor partner for India for liquid moly, which is a very reputed company. So in the past also, a lot of businesses which have come to us where we've set up joint ventures, they've come up because we make successes of businesses, we work at those joint ventures. So we actually help our partners to leverage India much better, which means exporting more from India. And this thing is becoming more and more important now that Europe is stable, now that US is doing very well. Earlier, our partners are also a little bit bogged down to utilize their capacities there because the Europe and US was not doing well. So their attention on sourcing more from India was a little bit low. But now that they are able to utilize their capacities overseas, they are looking at India rather than expanding overseas. They're looking at India because they see certainly advantage by sourcing from India many of the products. So we are doing much more with them for this. In addition, we are doing sourcing of components which we may not be making, but helping them source from India from other manufacturers, like a global sourcing arrangement. And third is engineering services. In many of the joint ventures, we've got large engineering resource which has been built up, where if they were to get the same engineering jobs done overseas, it'll be 3 to 4 times costly. When they are doing it in India through the joint venture, it is direct saving 3 to 4 times. Plus, it helps the joint venture to build up skills.
Do you want to capture the global market also by setting up shops there? Any plan?
Yeah. So I think in the businesses where we are freestanding, like Gabriel, for instance, certainly I think we are now very actively, when we are saying we are going to explore 20% exports. One of the things how we will do it is a much more concentration on getting OEM business, large OEM business globally. In case of a company like Gabriel, we are already maybe 8th largest shock absorber manufacturer in the world. That's where we already have a global scale. But we are present in India. We've got 7 plants in India and some small satellite plants which I was talking about. Like for Honda, we set up a plant for 2-wheelers in Karnataka state, just an assembly plant. So we've got some satellite smaller plants as well. So in companies like Gabriel, where we do have a global scale, where we are freestanding, we don't have a joint venture partner which restricts our territories. There we are certainly exploring getting business from large OEMs, and based on that, both in the 2-wheeler area as well as 4-wheeler area, both commercial vehicle, passenger vehicles, we are exploring. We are in discussion with a lot of people, and if we find that something in these areas fructifying, we'll certainly be looking at assembly plants overseas. We are actively thinking of that, but as I said, to start it also, we have to have some base, some concrete base built up.
How do you see your top line growing over the years?
Well, I think at the group level this year, in spite of the market doing badly, we have grown 11 to 12%. Last 2 years, or last rather 3 years, 11 to 12% this last year. Before that, it was only 6-7% growth, and another year like say 2012 was, I think, hardly maybe around 3-4% growth. So these 3 years have been rather, I would say, difficult years for us. But we are coming out of it. We are also obviously more hopeful that volumes will improve in the industry here in India, and we are just looking at certainly getting back to what we were doing, around 25% plus growth year on year, which is what was happening in 2009-10, 2010-11, 2011-12. These 3 years we had growth rates which are in excess of 25% year on year. So we are definitely thinking of getting back to that.
So when do you think that you will be able to achieve 10,000 crore target?
Well, 10,000 crores is within reach. I mean, even as per our plans, I think certainly we are thinking that by 2017 we should be in the region of 11 to 12,000 crores by 2017. I think 2016 we could be almost touching 10,000 crores. So I think it's a question of another 2 to 3 years. 2.5 years we should be at that rate.
What kind of capex you have for the
well, as far as the capital expenditure is concerned, at the group level, we have not discontinued any of the capital investments which are essential for our long-term growth, because we actually, even during this last 3 years of difficult period, we never let go of any opportunity or any investments. We didn't slow down, which were necessary for our long-term strategic reasons, so strategic growth reasons. So those we have been doing that. Even in these 2-3 years, our average capital investment year on year has been in the region of 250 to 300 crores at the group level per year. Okay.
Are you looking at any other product diversification like you did right now?
Well, I think we will start looking at more actively product diversification, and but I'm talking about more where we end up manufacturing those products in India. This thing in terms of distribution, we are looking at many products simultaneously through some of our distribution network and through our companies. Well, I think for instance our presence in two-wheeler segment is restricted to mainly Gabriel India. So I think that's an interesting segment for aftermarket, where we are exploring that, okay, we could really add on our, and utilize our distribution muscle much better by adding on some products for the two-wheeler industry. So we are looking at some of the products which could be suitable for two-wheeler industry, some of the products which we could add on, which could be, which could be products. Actually, in the last year we did add on some of the products, for the aftermarket, especially where we are not manufacturing those, we are sourcing from good suppliers but using our distribution muscle. So we will continue to explore those possibilities, and certainly expanding aftermarket is certainly on our radar through not only manufactured products but also traded products.
Thank you so much for talking.